latest episode of the Travis on Sports podcast, where I talk about the latest sports news and things surrounding the sports world. I'm your host, Travis Tyler, freelance sports writer and just a guy who loves to talk about sports. Haven't been too great about getting these out on a timely basis. It's been quite a while since I've recorded an episode for this show. Luckily, there hasn't been a ton of big things that we've missed, but I'm going to try to get you caught up on everything that I've been seeing. Today is Wednesday, December 22nd, 2021. We're going to cover the latest from MLB free agency and the current lockout, a contract extension for a MLB manager, the college football coaching changes, the college football playoff, bowl season, the latest college basketball poll, Tiger Woods returning to the golf course over the weekend, last weekend that is, COVID once again impacting professional sports, new front office hires in the NHL and the NBA, another update on a hockey player that's been discussed multiple times on this show, the latest surrounding the NFL, an Olympic boycott, a surprising decision from one of the top high school recruits in the country, and the Christmas Day sports schedule. So without further ado, let's get to it. The MLB is currently in a lockout that began technically on December 2nd. The collective bargaining agreement expired at 11:59 p.m. Eastern on December 1st, and there has been no new agreement reached since then. It marks 3 weeks now. Unfortunately, most of the news around this is just bad news. It's a very pessimistic outlook, I would say, and it could be quite a while before the deal was struck. According to ESPN's Jesse Rogers, does pretty good work for them. Owners and the Players Association have met to discuss just the minor issues and not any big issues that would lead to a potential deal being reached. You can read his piece on ESPN.com. It's very informative. It'll get you all caught up and have a great synopsis of what is currently going on there. Before the lockout, we had some free agent deals that were being signed. We covered a few of them during the last episode. We hear a few more over the most recent weeks. Marcus Stroman, the former Mets and Blue Jays pitcher, had a pretty good year for the Mets last year, has signed a 3-year, $71 million deal with the Cubs. Chris Taylor, the utility guy for the Dodgers, plays middle infield at shortstop and second base, also plays some outfield. There's a lot of pop in his bat. Highly sought out for commodity, kind of considered the number 6 or 7 shortstop on the market, which was loaded at that position. He's re-signed with the Dodgers for 4 years and $60 million. Relief pitcher Mark Melancon signs a 2-year deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Minnesota Twins gave Dylan Bundy, a starting pitcher, a 1-year deal. Rich Hill, the veteran starter, joins the Red Sox on a 1-year deal. Speaking of Boston, they have also traded outfielder Hunter Renfroe to Milwaukee for Jackie Bradley Jr. and some minor league players. You remember Jackie Bradley Jr. spent several years with the Red Sox and played for the Brewers last season. The Detroit Tigers have landed shortstop Javier Baez on a 6-year, $140 million deal. It's reported that they offered Carlos Correa a bigger deal, a longer deal, and he turned that down, so they went with Baez, and he fills a major hole in their infield and adds a big power bat to that lineup. Definitely could have done a lot worse there, especially for that price. The Atlanta Braves have given manager Brian Snitker a contract extension through the 2023 season with a team option to bring him back for the 2024 season. Snitker is 66, so he's getting up there in age a little bit, and has been Atlanta's manager since 2016. The past 5 seasons for the Braves have been some of their best seasons since the 90s, and he coached the team to its first World Series title since 1995 this past season, and has compiled a 441 and 390 record as manager. It finally appears that the college football coaching carousel has at least come to a temporary stop. It's been a crazy last couple of weeks, so here's some of the stuff you might have missed. You can check out my football website, thefootballsavant.com, for an article probably next week or the week after, recapping all the coaching moves that I've made. But so far, there are 18 total changes and 13 changes within the Power 5. Mora Jr. was named the head coach at UConn. He replaces Randy Edsall, who resigned earlier in the season. Mora has previously been an NFL head coach with the Falcons and was the head coach at UCLA. USC fired Clay Helton earlier this year, and he landed the same job at Georgia Southern partway through the year. And USC took a big swing and landed Oklahoma's Lincoln Riley as his replacement. Riley is regarded as one of the innovative young coaching geniuses in college football and is a big offensive-minded guy. And it was a pretty big shock for him to be leaving the Sooners. Shock to the fan base, shock to college football fans everywhere, really, guys that really follow this kind of stuff. Just a complete surprise. Brilliant recruiter. He's already brought some of his previously committed Oklahoma recruits with him and possibly some Oklahoma transfer players with him. Players love to play for him. Huge jolt to the USC offense. Been kind of stagnant recently. I think it's a good move for USC quarterback Jackson Dart as long as nobody transfers in to be ahead of him. We'll see how USC works with Riley in that out there in LA. He was replaced by Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables at Oklahoma, and Venables had previously been Oklahoma's defensive coordinator before leaving for Clemson. LSU also landed a big fish in Notre Dame's Brian Kelly. Another shocking move made the carousel a lot more interesting than it usually is. Kelly joins LSU and is replaced at Notre Dame by defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman, who became one of the youngest head coaches in college football. Washington State head coach Nick Rolovich was let go for a different reason. He claimed religious reasons for not getting the COVID vaccine, but as a state employee, he was required to get the vaccine. He never ended up getting it and ended up being replaced by Jake Rickert as the interim coach. And Rickert has officially been given the permanent job now for the Washington State Cougars. Texas Tech fired head coach Matt Wells partway through the year, hired Sonny Cumbie as the interim head coach. Cumbie has since been given the head coaching job at Louisiana Tech, replacing Skip Holtz. And Texas Tech has hired former Baylor assistant Joey McGuire. McGuire is a renowned high school football coach in Texas, should bode well in recruiting in that capacity, and has a track record of developing good defensive players, particularly at the outside linebacker position. TCU replaces Gary Patterson after a long 20-some year run with the Horned Frogs, and he has been replaced by Sonny Dykes from SMU. Dykes has previously been a head coach out at Cal. He's led a remarkable turnaround at SMU in Dallas and brings an exciting brand of football, especially on the offensive side with a lot of points to Fort Worth. It's kind of been something that TCU has been missing recently. Plus, I think with that time spent in Dallas, he can appeal to a pretty good Dallas recruiting area. SMU has hired Rhett Lashley, their former offensive coordinator who spent this past season at Miami, as their new head coach, so shouldn't expect too much of a change for the Mustangs there. Billy Napier, Louisiana head coach, has been hired as the Florida head coach, replacing Dan Mullen. Napier, I don't know a lot about him, but he's led the Raging Cajuns to back-to-back 12-win seasons and apparently has great relationships down south and is just regarded as, again, one of those up-and-coming genius, always going to be successful head coaches. It'll be interesting to see how he fares as a new coach in the SEC. Oregon head coach Mario Cristobal has left for his alma mater in Miami. He played for the Hurricanes in the early 1990s and gets a chance to return home. Replaces Manny Diaz, who had not been fired when the rumors started that Cristobal was going to be the next head coach, but since then has been fired and all the moves have been made official. The replacement at Oregon for Cristobal is Georgia defensive coordinator Dan Lanning. Elsewhere, Kalen DeBoer leaves Fresno State for Washington and is replaced by Jeff Tedford, who coincidentally was the same guy that DeBoer was replacing at Fresno State. Tedford had resigned after the 2019 season due to health concerns, was now back. Longtime Duke head coach David Cutcliffe, who is known for his relationship with the Mannings and developing Daniel Jones as a quarterback coach, is out at Duke and is replaced by Texas A&M defensive coordinator Mike Elko. I think Cutcliffe could be a candidate for offensive coordinator position somewhere. Jay Norvell leaves Nevada for Colorado State, replaced by Mike Wilson. Interesting move to move within the conference, but hey, to each their own. Stan Drayton, the former Texas running backs coach, replaces Rod Carey at Temple. Sonny Cumbie, as I said, is at Louisiana Tech now. Clemson offensive coordinator Tony Elliott, after initially declining the job at Virginia, is now taking the job at Virginia after Bronco Mendenhall resigned from the Cavaliers. And Virginia Tech has hired Penn State defensive coordinator Brent Pry as their new head coach, and UMass has landed defensive coordinator, defensive genius Dr. Blitz Don Brown. There are probably a couple others that I missed, but those are the highlights in that. And also in the college football world, the 14 college football playoff field has been announced. The first semifinal will be the Cotton Bowl at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, with Alabama against Cincinnati. Cincinnati, a lot of talent, offense that can score, but this is the best defense they faced, even though they faced Notre Dame. I think Alabama's defense is a lot better than Notre Dame's. The Alabama defense needs to show up, be consistent, rattle Desmond Ridder behind the line of scrimmage, make him try to force throws and make plays that he's not ready to make. Another intriguing matchup here is Sauce Gardner, the corner for Cincinnati, possible first-round pick, going up against another possible first-round pick in Jameson Williams, the receiver for Alabama. Also that secondary against Bryce Young at quarterback, and just really these offenses and defenses against each other in general is just interesting. And Alabama will need to replace John Mechie, who tore his ACL in the SEC championship game. Whether it's Slade Bolden or somebody else that emerges, they need somebody to be the Robin to Jameson Williams' Batman, if you will. And I'm interested to see how Cincinnati approaches this in game plans for this one. The other semifinals is the Orange Bowl in Miami. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, Georgia. Michigan's number 2, but I think Georgia's the better team. Georgia's biggest question mark is at quarterback, and Stetson Bennett has shown that he could get rattled at times, so that could cost them in this game, but I still expect Georgia to win, especially with the inexperience Michigan has on offense and the ridiculous experience that Georgia has on defense and all the NFL talent on that side of the ball. Plus, Michigan struggled with Nebraska and Penn State and Rutgers earlier this year. Those aren't exactly great teams. Georgia is loads better than all those teams, so I do think these teams play similar styles, and it could be a close game, but I would lean very heavily towards Georgia. I think they're a deeper team. I think they're a more complete team, and they're just the better team overall. Running the ball is going to be key for both teams in this game against those defensive lines, but Georgia, I just think, has a better team overall. And then in bowl season overall, there's going to be 41 games played by January 10th, so pay attention to ESPN and the other networks for game times. I also have articles posted on thefootballsavant.com pertaining to each game, and there's also a overall bowl schedule up there as well. Switching to college basketball, extremely entertaining this year. A number of highly ranked teams have gone down. Purdue, Gonzaga, UCLA, Duke have all held the number 1 ranking and fallen since then. Right now, the rankings, you got number 1 Baylor, number 2 Duke, 3 Purdue, 4 Gonzaga, 5 UCLA, 6 Arizona, 7 Kansas, 8 USC, 9 Iowa State, 10 Alabama, 11 Michigan State, 12 Auburn, 13 Houston, 14 Ohio State, 15 Seton Hall, 16 Texas, 17 LSU, 18 Xavier, 19 Tennessee, 20 Kentucky, 21 Colorado State, 22 Providence, 23 Villanova, 24 Wisconsin, 25 Texas Tech,